Hi, my name is Lee McKenney. I'm the marketing manager with Openworks. Thank you for joining us today. We are happy to have you on board for our webcast about what you need to know about long-lasting antimicrobial surface protectants. Our expert panel today will consist of Mary Tirado, Dr. Curtis White, and Bob Chassie. Mary Tirado joined Openworks in 2015 and brings 12 years of experience in the janitorial industry to her current role as Regional Operations Manager for Phoenix. She's focused on developing franchise partners within the region and maintaining high quality service levels in the various industries we serve. She holds certifications in infection control, OSHA safety, and bloodborne pathogens. A frequent speaker at national and international conferences in textile preservation, infection control, and in the control of problem-causing microbes in indoor environments. Dr. White is recognized as a leader in the understanding and control of microbial problems on substrates, in products, and in the indoor environment. Dr. White currently serves as Chief Technology Officer of VIACLEAN Technologies, as well as chairperson of the Independent Commission for Improvement of Healthcare Outcomes and Cost Containment in the Veterans Administration and Department of Defense and Healthcare Systems. Bob Chassie joined VIACLEAN Technologies in 2017 as the Director of Strategic Partnerships. His focus with VIACLEAN is business development and managing existing customer partnerships within the variety of industries they serve. Bob's expertise includes 25 years in sales and marketing, primarily with sports and lifestyle related facilities, events, properties, and brands, including some well-known brands like International Speedway Corporation, NASCAR, Professional Bull Riders Association, Pepsi, Stanley, Black & Decker, and Ford. So welcome to our panel. We're happy to have you today. Today's webcast learning objectives will include learning what long-lasting antimicrobial surface protectants are and how and where they can be applied. We'll understand the efficacy and durability expectations for the product, and we'll review who can or should consider using antimicrobial surface protectants. So before we get started today with the webcast, just a couple of details about today's event. We will have a live question and answer session following today's presentation. To submit questions, just please navigate to the Q&A button that is at the bottom of your screen and type in your questions at your convenience. Our presenters will answer as many questions as possible in the Q&A session after the presentation. You'll also receive a PDF copy of today's presentation slides, generally about 24 hours after the conclusion of the webinar. You will also receive a link to a brief online assessment. Upon completion of this assessment, you'll receive your CEU certificate. So with that, as we're all aware, COVID-19 has dramatically altered our lives, from how we work to how we socialize and everything in between. In today's before we get too far into reviewing today's agenda, we'd like to get a quick poll of the audience. Are you currently using a long-lasting antimicrobial surface protectant at your facility? Yes or no? You should see a pop-up screen, a pop-up window on your screen. If you can just click yes or no on there and submit your answer, we'll share the results in just a moment. And give it just a few seconds for people to respond. So it looks like we have about 63% are not using any kind of antimicrobial surface protectant yet, but 38% of you have begun using one. So that's great information. We're going to share a little more information with you today. On here, our agenda, we'll give you an overview of what is long-lasting antimicrobial surface protection technology. How long is it expected to last on surfaces? How you can apply it, what industries and surfaces it can be applied to. And then we'll do a quick overview of Openworks and VIACLEAN technologies, and we'll follow that up with about 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A. So with that, I would like to hand this off to Dr. White to give you some more information. Dr. White?
Right. This is Kurt White, and I've come to you with 50 plus years of experience in the antimicrobial world, inventing and developing and commercializing technologies. And the path that I've been on takes me from really toxic preservatives to the soft chemicals that we now can bring to the marketplace that still control these microbial pests and these threatening organisms that we have that come from our environment. So welcome to you all, and I'll be a bit of your tour guide and hopefully arm you with information that you can use with your management, your staff, and your stakeholders to better understand the capabilities of having a long-lasting antimicrobial surface protectant. So we can move on. And so when you have the technology capability to bond things to a surface and make them part of that surface that actually on contact kill or inactivate microbes, you now have a tool that can bring you these properties of 90-day continuous surface protection. You can have 100% coverage. This is actually an important attribute because we also are in the built environments marketplace. We're all being challenged with the next magic bullet, right? To deal with all of this. And we're seeing in the marketplace kind of the retrenching, the reiterating of technologies that have been used in the past and have utility, but using them in the broad scale of a built environment may not be the best thing. UV light certainly has utility, and when you can accentuate the activity of that by using TiO2, all the proper anatase form of it and things of that sort, you can enhance it, but that's not something that has utility every place because you have shadowing, you can't go around corners. There's other things that need to be considered when you choose some of these replay technologies, but at the same time, don't throw them out with the bathwater. All of these materials need EPA registration. What they say has to be on their EPA registration documents, and that's more than just the label that goes on a bottle or a drum. There's collateral labeling that you need to get and pay attention to. One of the attributes of the technology we're putting in front of you today is that it is safe for use where there's direct food contact and in the presence of people. That's actually in the world of disinfectants and sanitizers. That's a huge safety clearance that differentiates a lot of products. Most of them standard disinfectants that you would see are not surface protectants. They are, in fact, disinfectants, and many of them have to be rinsed. Many of them need, all of them need a wet contact time to be effective, and that can be 10, 15 minutes. So you have to consider in your use patterns and where you're targeting whether you can actually accomplish that. So the safety becomes a big factor. What we've done to go beyond the traditional EPA battery of safety tests that you need to do and that are covered in your legal labeling is we've created a special file at the FDA that allows people that are manufacturing medical devices, and these could be implantable or insertable devices. And this master file is an attribute, again, that no other company, to my knowledge, has available. And again, it just reads on the safety profile of the material. We are approved by the USDA for food contact. And what that should flag to you is, not so much about VIACLEAN touting their approvals for these things, but those are reasonable bars for you to look at as you're looking at any technologies. The ability of it not to be have antagonistic chemicals with it to people, the environment, or the materials you're treating, and for it to not bring with it baggage. I suspect we have some of the folks from California, and you've lived with the evolution of, the tightest standards in the country on VOCs, on other types of pollutants that affect the environment and people. And we're totally compliant with all of those rules. So we can go ahead. A critical thing, whether or not you're using a leachable type disinfectant material or you're doing something that is in fact a long-lasting surface protectant, is the range of organisms that you control. And you can see here a representative list of some of the target organisms that have been tested, most of them not just in the laboratory, but also in field testing. And you can see that it covers the whole range of bacteria, fungi, and you can include yeasts in that, and viruses. Go ahead. And of course, the elephant in the room is the things about the coronavirus itself and the kill claims that people are using in the marketplace, and that you should be able to understand some vocabulary to peel back what is really being said, told to you when someone says they have an end list, which the end list is something where the suppliers like us that have a disinfectant can in fact get on this list, which is a reasonable screening tool to say that these materials then have efficacy against a group of microbes if they're used according to their label, the right contact time, the right, it's a wet contact time, and then the long-term sustained kill if they have that type of claim and support data. But the other part of the vocabulary that I think is important to you, your management, your staff, your stakeholders, is getting a consistent vocabulary around this coronavirus claim. One, the COVID-19 disease is not an organism, it's a disease. And so you're not going to, you shouldn't readily believe if someone says they're controlling the COVID-19, because then you're controlling the disease. And I know for a fact, nobody has clinical data that shows they're controlling the disease. So when they say that, you want to peel back, what does it actually mean? And for our company, we don't want to claim that because we don't want the liability of, okay, we claim it and somebody gets sick. You don't want to treat your facility with the claim that you're controlling the COVID-19 disease and you don't have data to support that, because of course somebody is going to get sick. And when they do you become liable? And and I don't think that we can communicate to the public in a proper way and leave that impression because it creates a false sense of security that just shouldn't exist. Now, what is the claim is the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And that's the causative agent of COVID-19 disease. And so if we're talking about that specific virus, and I wish I had the couple of hours to talk to you about how distinctive that virus is and how challenging it is to work with in the laboratory, because it's so incredibly infectious and it transmits so easily. And the outcomes are not good for people that get infected in terms of both their therapy and then their mortality and morbidity. So the SARS-CoV-2, and then people have backed off, and part of what you're being bombarded with is, well, we're a coronavirus. We can control coronavirus. And the EPA has opened up a doorway for people to be able to make claims that relate to SARS-CoV-2 without actually testing the organism. And what they've said is that if you have shown efficacy, performance, and this is laboratory stuff, against other coronaviruses, and many of you, I hope all of you, remember we've been through this pandemic before, multiple times, and depending how old you are, and how well you survived it. But the relative of these respiratory viruses like the SARS-CoV-2, there was a SARS-CoV-1, and that was the H1N1 virus that was a pandemic organism that the world brought under control and no longer is a threat. But the EPA allows people to test against the SARS-CoV-1 and another group of other bacteria and viruses so that they can, in fact, with certain qualifiers, say that they control the SARS-CoV-2. And the rub with that is that's a wet contact claim that people are allowed. And of course, taking the next step, and this is what this seminar is focused ultimately on, and that is a long-lasting surface protectant. Because all of us in infection control, in trying to control this in the built environments, we want to control the sources and the transfer routes. And we want to be able to have some long-lasting effect. And the question that I've always asked people is, okay, we clean, we disinfect, And please keep doing those things. And then when you want to protect, you have to extend you walk into a world where you extend this surface protection activity. And the reason, of course, that that's important is, suppose I disinfect a surface. What happens next? So I've killed off all the competition. I've cleaned this surface, and yet the continued barrage of organisms onto that surface from human activity, from animal activity, from the wind, from the ventilation systems, if you will, starts right away. And when we treat nurses' uniforms and medical garments, medical goods, we always ask that question of, okay, you have a sterile garment, but what happens next? The minute it's touched, it's contaminated. And have you, in fact, created in a sense, a non-competitive field for those new contaminating organisms? And are they going to proliferate like crazy? Are they going to take that niche in the environment and take advantage of it? Well, that's Mother Nature, and they will. And so is it a good guy that comes there or a bad guy that comes there? And you need to challenge yourself to think about various contact points in your environment. And Mary will talk more about that later. But go ahead. So some of the attributes and properties that are really, really important is you don't want to disrupt or one of the telltales for microbial contamination, of course, is odor. Stinky, putrid odors, fecal type smells, or just background stinky smells. Well, you can cover those up, right? You can put a fragrance on them and whatever. And I beat on the hospitality industry for that, because they're in the appearance business, right? They want things to look good. They want them to smell good. And so for them to be able to see mold and mildew growing on their ceiling, well, we'll just cover it up. And that musty smell that we have, we'll put a fragrance in there. Well, today we do have a new awakening for people in all of these kinds of environments. It's not just a hospital environment, it's every environment, that now we want to have odorless, colorless, persistent things working in the dry state besides the wet state. We'd like it to be water-based so that we don't have the VOCs associated with other technologies. We want it to be pH balanced so that it doesn't negatively affect the surfaces that we're treating. We have probably many of you, maybe all of you, have had experience using ozone. Well, ozones can in fact be used at concentrations, if you don't have people around, that can kill a lot of organisms and eliminate them. But you have to do that at levels that actually affect materials. You'll degrade rubber gaskets, you'll degrade other materials, you'll decolorize materials. So those rapid oxidizing materials, like the various chlorine compounds and ozone-based type materials, they have baggage that comes with them. Now, you still might have situations where you would use them, but you need to fully consider these secondary effects. You need to have technologies that are environmentally responsible and things that are safe to people, the environment, and to materials. So go forward. Slide. And here, we're not going to try to make you scientists by any means, but this is a wonderful way to illustrate how the BioProtect-based technology, the OFS, the organofunctional silane, how it operates. And this is a very sophisticated imaging technique. And on the left-hand side, you're seeing part of a test substrate where there is no treatment. And then on the other side is the bioprotected surface. And the importance of that is that you can see that there's a clear difference, but that bioprotected surface on the right, what we built into this and built into the invention of it was the ability for those spikes to attract and associate microorganisms and then rupture their outer membranes, or in the case of a virus, the outer coating, and be able to kill it or inactivate it in the case of viruses. So there's a little kind of visual way to see this is something, because one of the challenges of this industry that we've always had is hey, you guys out there in the real world, we've got this wonderful treatment for you. Now it's invisible, and it's killing those invisible organisms, and you only have to pay this much for it. And so you walk away some days thinking you're the emperor's selling the emperor's new clothes, but this is real science. The technology, the invention and innovation that went into this, and why? To solve problems where you can have a long-lasting protection on a surface, not just a kill and walk away. Because again, ask that question: who comes there to live next? Slide. So when you look at the bound technology and you try to create a chart, and with my technical hat on, I've been asked to make these all my career, and they drive me crazy because you're generally trying to compare apples and oranges, and I think our competing technologies feel that same kind of a challenge. But some of the highlights and capabilities that the BioProtect systems have is the FDA protocols that gave us this device master file. And these are all built around cytotoxicity, where you're doing tests to show that your technology doesn't affect normal cells, and the mode of action is the way we talk about it in the science side of it. But how does it actually inactivating or killing the organisms? And that non-leaching component of it, this technology, and in fact, when we invented this, the original question we were asking is, how can we take pesticides and make them effective, but not let them leach into the environment? Now, this was most of the science thinking on this was in the 1960s, and when the early invention and patents and things were going on. The innovations to it that we've brought on our modern patents is another story, but the original one was we wanted to have something that was non-leaching, and so that it didn't go in the environment, didn't go on people's skin to affect the normal flora of the skin, which are, the skin is the largest organ in the human body, and the balance of it and the microbes that are on it is essential to your health. So go ahead. Of course, safety drives everything we do when we're handling chemicals. And so we bring to you an extremely safe to handle material. And go ahead. Slide. And of course, we bring not just that safety profile, but efficacy. Slide. This is just one of the representative test series that was done at Ryerson University, which is in Toronto, Canada. And some of our generation 2, 3, and 4 technologies that hopefully you'll all hear about in the near future were invented and created by a really crack group at Ryerson University. When you look at the efficacy against these different organisms, you're looking on the left at colony forming units. So that's how many of them are there. And then along the base, the different organisms themselves, and you'll see the performance against an untreated surface and on a treated surface. Now remember, this is testing that went on a dry, excuse me, a dry surface. And so the performance criteria is not a wet disinfectant that you might have to rinse away. And then you can see the on the second table shows some of the different substrates that could be treated. Now these were real world retrievals in a food processing plant. We used to call them slaughterhouses, and now they're protein harvest places. So lots of organic matter around, no control over the quality of the water that was used for the delivery, but tremendous efficacy in the reduction of the organisms. Slide. And of course, nothing works until you can, these technologies, till you can safely apply them and apply them efficiently, and that you're picking the target surfaces properly. So Mary's going to take over and walk you through this part of how you can in fact get these long-lasting antimicrobial surfaces.
Thanks, Dr. White. There are a couple of ways you can apply this product that we will review. Next slide, please. So after dealing with COVID-19 for months now, you've probably learned the important differences between cleaning and disinfecting. For the purposes of this presentation, let's quickly review them. So cleaning is the physical action of removing dust, dirt, and debris. Regular cleaning tasks include sweeping, vacuuming, dusting, mopping, etc. Disinfecting means you're applying a disinfecting product, usually chemicals, that must kill at least 99.99% of the bacteria and viruses on a surface. Surfaces usually need to remain wet longer. Dwell time can range from 1 to 10 minutes. If a surface is visibly dirty, a disinfectant product will be much less effective. Any visible soil must be removed before disinfecting to allow the disinfectant to reach the bacteria or microorganisms on the surface when it's applied. To ensure the best results when disinfecting, your service provider should use a two-step process at a minimum. For a long-lasting layer of protection against disease control, we recommend the third step. The first step is a general cleaning to remove soil, dirt, dust, organic matter, and most germs. During the second step, approved disinfectants such as the EPA list and antimicrobial disinfectants are used to destroy germs. Apply an EPA-registered long-lasting antimicrobial surface protectant, like BIOPROTECTUS or similar, to create a shield against bacteria and microorganisms for up to 90 days. Just as a disinfectant will not work as well if the surface is not cleaned prior to application, so is the case for applying the surface protectant. For the surface protectant to work as described, surface must be cleaned and disinfected following appropriate dwell times prior to application. It is most effective when surfaces are cleaned regularly and free from debris. Applicators. So you would just spray on a surface directly from the bottle or sprayer. It's easy as that. No rinse is required. Even for food surface contact, and protection begins in 60 seconds and remains effective for up to 90 days. For pump sprayer application, using pump sprayer, spray entire area of 4 to 6 feet from the surface, making sure the surface is completely covered. Applying and then let stand until dry at least 3 minutes and wipe dry with cloth or sponge. When treating coarser substrates, more surface protectants may be required due to absorption. For commercial spray application, commercial application equipment such as carpet, upholstery steamers, rotary jet extraction cleaner, electrostatic sprayer, and pressure sprayers. Apply and then let stand until dry or let stand 3 minutes and wipe dry with a cloth or sponge. When treating coarser substrates, again, more surface protectant may be required due to absorption. Next slide, please. Thank you for the overview of how long-lasting antimicrobial surface protectants work and how long we can expect them to last. Now that we've armed with this information, let's look at some of the benefits to using an antimicrobial surface protectant and some great use cases on where it can be applied. Now that we know how this type of product works, I'm sure we can all think of how it can benefit our facilities. Some of those benefits include reduces risk and cost by inhibiting microbial growth on surface over extended periods. By treating surfaces of all types, personnel benefits from reduced exposure to harmful microorganisms and reduced staff absenteeism through illness. Reduce person-to-person transfer, reduce environmental to person transfer, reduce risk of product contamination and thus product recall or litigation. Widely applicable. High touch points such as door handles, desk, visitor seats, AC duct, carpets, food preparation areas. Surfaces not cleaned regularly and effectively are potential reservoirs for health damaging bacteria. Stakeholders that can benefit from this is building owners, insurance companies, occupants, company leasing buildings. This can reduce your liability of having mold and mildew in buildings. It can reduce sick building syndrome phenomenon. Long-lasting antimicrobial surface protectants help reduce all of these liabilities as a stakeholder in building management. Next slide, please. Long-lasting antimicrobial surface protectants, like BIOPROTECT, can be used in various settings and industries to achieve the benefits you're seeking. Some industries where we have seen the most interest is in education, healthcare, and residential property management. Next slide, please. Once you've made the decision to move forward with a long-lasting surface protectant, make sure you're hitting those high-touch surfaces. As we know, they're more prone to infection, and according to the CDC, they should be disinfected daily at a minimum. Now that you've learned a little bit more about long-lasting antimicrobial surface protectants, we'd like to ask another polling question. Would you now consider adding a long-lasting antimicrobial surface protectant to your facility disinfection program? Yes, no, or maybe. All right, great. So thank you for your input. I'd like to transition now to give you some information about Openworks. So about Openworks. With more than 35 years of experience, Openworks is proud to continue to provide over nearly 5,500 nationwide customers with the most effective and innovative process in the cleaning industry, along with a highly trained elite network of service providers using the latest cleaning technologies and best practices. What are the advantages when you partner with Openworks? Openworks' network of elite service providers brings together business owners dedicated to mutual success through seamless, high-value facility care. Our customer retention rate is at over 98%. It is 43% higher than the industry average. We use EPA list and approved product broad spectrum that hard surface disinfectant shown to be effective against similar viruses to COVID-19. Our service providers have gained and received OSHA bloodborne pathogen certifications. We're certified by the Global Risk Virus Advisory Council, a division of ISSA, the Worldwide Cleaning Industry Association, on how to prepare for, respond to, and cover from biohazards in the workplace, with specific focus on COVID-19. We are trained on infection and contamination control measures for infectious diseases situations such as the novel coronavirus. We are your one-stop shop for complete facilities care. We have integrated facility services, single point of communication, local service with corporate oversight, and high quality and responsiveness. Our Total Works is our suite of comprehensive services solutions developed on recommendations from expert agencies and organizations like CDC and EPA. Feedback from Openworks customers and their consumers. Total Works is complete cleaning and disinfection system that includes treatments of high-touch surfaces, workspaces, and common areas and restrooms throughout your facility. It includes 3 programs: Sani Services, Infect-A-Guard, and our newest offering, Continuous Care. Continuous Care is a brand new service Openworks is offering to help with longer lasting infection control for our customers. It is a long-standing, lasting antimicrobial surface protectant, just as we have discussed today, that is applied after surfaces are cleaned and disinfected. Our new Continuous Care service includes the entire 3-step application process. We clean all surfaces to free them from dust and debris. We apply EPA list and approved disinfectants to all surfaces. In the final step, we apply the long-lasting antimicrobial surface protectant using an electrostatic sprayer to ensure maximum coverage and to inhibit the growth of bacteria and microorganisms like COVID-19. Enhance your cleaning program with cutting-edge technology that creates a long-lasting layer of protection, offering complete peace of mind and continuous protection against bacteria and microorganisms for up to 90 days. Sani Services is our ongoing cleaning and disinfection services that covers workspaces and common areas, restrooms, and high-touch areas throughout the facility. We have 3 disinfection plans you can choose and services delivery frequency that best meets your needs. All offer continuous care and an antimicrobial surface protectant like BIOPROTECT. That is applied after surfaces have been cleaned and disinfected to provide continuous protection from bacteria and microorganisms for up to 90 days. Infect-A-Guard is our in-depth cleaning and disinfectant surfaces that give you the peace of mind that your facility is disinfected with EPA-approved antimicrobial disinfectants that prevent the spread of germs that cause infections such as influenza and COVID-19. If you have a confirmed case of COVID-19 or another biohazard virus outbreak and need to ensure your facility is completely disinfected, choose Infect-A-Guard to ensure your facility is thoroughly disinfected and even hard to reach surfaces and surfaces that typically are not cleaned on a regular basis. Continuous Care is available with both to provide continuous protection from bacteria and microorganisms for up to 90 days. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Bob Chess, Director of Strategic Partnerships, to give you a bit more information via VIACLEAN Technologies.
Thanks, Mary. I appreciate everyone's time, and hopefully you've learned something today. VIACLEAN Technologies is a biotech company based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and they've been around for about 5 years. And approximately 3 and change years ago, we purchased the rights and IP and some other data from our one and only Dr. White, and who, as you know now, is our Chief Technology Officer. So we wanted to make sure that we're ahead of the game and identify solutions to situations out in the world that we now believe we have a difference maker. So we want to make sure that we kind of push that thought and that practice through in everyone's lives, whether it's through the air, surfaces, skin. We do have a hand sanitizer that is not part of this, but we have all these various touch points in everyone's daily lives that we feel we've got the best in class technology. Go ahead. So, you know, the crux and the foundation of our portfolio is our BioProtect ready to use. And when Mary and Dr. White were both talking about the antimicrobial application product, this is the primary product that we use. We do have it in the concentrate, you know, for larger commercial opportunities. That's diluted, but it all comes down to the basic you know, the primary, you know, ready to use product. And many of these things, you know, you captured earlier in some of the other slides, but I think one of the ones that needs to be highlighted, where Dr. White had mentioned and walked through how it works, you know, one of the keys that needs to be identified and pushed is the fact that it's a mechanical kill and not a poisonous kill. So when these microbes are destroyed, they go away, much like a balloon lands on a bed of nails. It doesn't come back, as opposed to any of the other leaching antimicrobials that, you know, ultimately can create some superbugs. I'm trying to look at, yeah, I think most of those other things we've covered. So for the sake of time, we can go to the next slide. So key takeaways. Basically, the BioProtect product, we believe, is a unique and safe, it's EPA registered, it's an antimicrobial technology that provides a long-lasting protection against microorganisms. The key to all of this, and Mary touched on it as well, is that it's a system. So you don't just go on into a room and spray BioProtect on a surface that hasn't been cleaned or disinfected. You need to make sure that those spaces and those areas and those surfaces are clean and clear of debris. You next want to make sure that the disinfectant does its job through its dwell time. It's killing what it needs to kill. It works in a wet state. And then our BioProtect works in a dry state. So once that disinfectant's dry and the BioProtect is applied to those surfaces, it does not become effective until that product is dry or that surface is dry. And so it takes those three steps to provide the most effective, efficient, and successful treatments, or results rather. The other thing, and I happened to notice one of the questions about List N and BioProtect. BioProtect is not a List N product. It's not a disinfectant. So our EPA registration covers it for surfaces for long-lasting protection, but not as a disinfectant. Okay, so hopefully that clears up some of the folks that had a question. On the application side, again, 3 easy step process. You notice some of the equipment usages, whether it's a mister, fogger, electrostatic sprayer, anything that provides the sufficient coverage, and as long as it's not overtreated and oversaturated, using those 3 steps should create the best possible result for everybody. And then in terms of efficacy, you know, we've talked about up to the 90 days. Again, as long as that system is used, and one of the questions that comes up periodically is, what can I do in between the 90 days? Well, we suggest that you continuously clean on a regular basis just to keep your facility clean. Disinfect where need be, whether it's high touch points. Again, some of it's optics. But we know that over the course of 3 months, or in and out of 3 months, those surfaces will be free of bacteria. You know, unless again, there's debris that lands on it. If someone spills coffee onto a surface, you want to make sure that's cleaned up, because those spikes that Dr. White talked about become less effective. And just to answer a common question as well, what breaks down the layer of BioProtect and the covalent bond that's established? Heavy abrasion, i.e. scrubbers, or high pH acidic type products, hydrochloric acid, muriatic acids, things of that nature. So you want, and most people aren't using those, but those are the only things that really cause any breakdown in the technology. On the usage, obviously Mary touched on, on all the different areas or types of industries, but basically it's ubiquitous. It can be used on any porous or non-porous surface, whether it's leather, whether it's fabrics, metal, cement, wood. Honestly, it doesn't matter, unless, there's some unique thing that, hasn't been brought to our attention. So, I guess in summary on this slide, we believe we have a game-changing product that Dr. White headed up and invented in his prior career, and it's safe for all people and children and certainly on food contact surfaces like we talked about. So next slide. Okay, there we go.
Great, thank you, Bob. This is Lee. I'm going to go through some of the questions and see if we can address some of the inquiries we've gotten from the attendees. So we've gotten quite a few questions here, and I'm just going to go through here really quickly. Here's a good one. Bob, either you or Dr. White could address this. What kind of PPE should the crew use during application?
Let me take that, Bob. The PPE is really dictated by the application technique, not so much the chemistries that we have. Of course, any of us in the chemistry business, people should avoid contact with chemicals. But if you're putting them in a electrostatic sprayer and you've got these very small droplets that on inhalation can go deep lung, you really don't want to do that without proper respiratory protection, proper protection of your skin, and especially the mucous membrane, things like your eyes. So it's a little bit dependent upon, what the application technique is, but the reality is that they should use a pretty thorough PPE under any circumstances, and the proper hygiene practices of their uniforms and things like that, personal hygiene practices. Yeah, there's a lot of care. We have care documents and things that we supply for people to understand the importance of those avoidance.
Thank you, Dr. White. Bob, I believe you touched on this just briefly, but maybe you can reiterate. Does cleaning and polishing the surface remove the BioProtect coating?
Sorry. Well, I will let Dr. White add some color to this, but the answer is no. And again, that covalent bond that has been established not only attaches to the surface, but attaches to itself. So that makes it even more stringent and obviously, protecting it against any of the microbes and such. But applying a polish, well, if it's going to cover if a polish is permanent and it's going to cover the spikes, then I guess it will have an issue or a challenge. And Doc, certainly had guidance on that, but any other regular washing will not have any effect.
Yeah, we really like for people to have their surfaces prepared. Part of that hydrophobic character that we bring with it makes it easier to clean. And we like to get it to where people can use microfiber cloths, good wipe downs to do it. But the experience we have is with 100 bonnet cleaner cycles on a carpet. And so on nylon, polyester type carpeting, the material was still there and still killed microbes. So the durability because of these chemical bonds is pretty fantastic.
Wonderful. Bob, this one I think I'm going to direct to you. You were speaking a little bit about this earlier. Has microcoating been officially approved by the EPA? It's my understanding that only one solution has been approved so far.
Was that towards me?
Yes, if you don't mind, either of you, actually, it's fine.
Well, we
Yeah.
have the approvals from the EPA, or we wouldn't be in the business. And these are long-standing registrations where we have the accepted labeling for the claims we make, and the importance of that is that we're extending that. You know, the COVID has brought a whole new spectrum. The EPA doesn't have techniques approved for studying the SARS-CoV-2. We have had incredibly credentialed organizations do that testing for us, and we're working with the EPA to help them get certified techniques. I sit on ASTM committees and others that are helping guide the agency for this. The Healthcare Services Institute that I'm on the board of directors of, we're helping the EPA find these proper techniques so that they can then regulate them more thoroughly. That part of it's a new world. And so we are getting the targeted organism approvals, but we're working that through with the EPA. So I think that what we have is we've got the best available platform for claims and capabilities, and we're working hard to get the emerging claims and capabilities.
Thank you. We've gotten quite a few questions. Mary, you might be able to address this about using the product with an electrostatic sprayer. Is that possible? Is it an effective use of the protectant through the sprayer? And does it cause any clogging problems, are basically the questions?
Yes, I've done several of the trial runs myself, and I've used the electrostatic sprayer. And I love that method of application because of the fact that it's convenient, it's fast, and you don't need to worry about whether or not the chemical has wrapped around the surfaces, right? The electrostatic sprayer ensures that that application is done correctly versus a regular spray bottle. So, you know, considering the usage and the way, the peace of mind for that, it's the best application, and it doesn't clog as long as you are maintaining the equipment properly. I know some folks have issues because of the fact that they don't clean it after each use. So keeping in mind, if you maintain it as any other equipment for, you know, janitorial products, you're going to ensure that there's no issues with clogging and things like that.
Great. And Mary, while you're speaking, can you give a little more insight into why we require our crews to use PPE with their general applications? Someone is saying that it gives the impression, showing those pictures gives an impression that our product may not be safe to the people using it, and that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, that's correct. So the product is safe for the environment. And I do see where that is, it makes it show like it is a biohazard or whatnot. But the thing is that individuals who are cleaning or, you know, applying a product should always use PPE, and the, you know, the necessities of using at least a mask, gloves, and things like that. Sometimes we'll have crews out with full-on PPE because keep in mind that we're sending individuals to the front lines to clean a facility that has had a COVID confirmed case or an outbreak. So we need to ensure that those team members are kept safe while they're conducting those services.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. White, are there variables in how long the BioProtect is effective on a surface? for example, exposure to some specific pathogen or multiple touches?
Part of the beauty of the technology is that it's as durable as the surface you treat. And so that's the big variable. Mary's emphasized, we've all tried to emphasize that cleaning is an important step in these whole processes. and so if you treat a bunch of dirt, that dirt will slough away, and then so will the treatment. So those friable surfaces that come apart, have less durability. But the organisms interfacing with it do not affect the effectiveness. So the treatment isn't used up. Bob mentioned it's a physical kill. It ruptures the membranes, and so it's not being used up in the killing process. And the design part of it that we did was so that we wouldn't get what's called sublethal doses. So if you have a normal disinfectant on a surface, and then you put organisms on it, they're being killed. They're using up the chemical. Well, at some point, they use up enough of the chemical that it doesn't work anymore. And that's a sublethal dose. Well, that's the point where microbes adapt. And that's where some of the historically used toxicants that were used as disinfectants are no longer acceptable, because they not only caused adaptation, but they also caused resistance to antibiotics. And so when you see these antibiotic resistant organisms that get talked about, and it's important that they are talked about, but those, you don't want to use treatments, chemistries that can give rise to those adapted microbes.
Thank you, Dr. White. Since we're running a little bit over time, I thought I would give us one last question to address, and then we'll wrap it up for the duration. How do I test the treated surface to confirm that work has been completed?
We have chemical tests that can show that the treatment is there. We have markers that can be used with it so it can fluoresce. Not totally advised, by the way, because they'll fluoresce all the time, and if there's UV lights around. But we also have the biological indicating tests, and those are what are used most often. So you hopefully most of you have learned about ATP type retrievals, and even though there are some technical considerations for using such things in terms of their validity, but for the most part, they're a great plus minus test. So you can test the surface and show that microbes are there. You can treat it and show that they're not there. And then you can, through time, continue to show the efficacy of the material by using these ATP photometers in similar machines.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. White. We've gotten so many good questions today from the attendees that I think that what we haven't been able to address, the Openworks team will put together with Dr. White's team a document so that we can address your additional questions and give you some more information on the continuous clean product or continuous care product. So if we haven't gotten to your question, thank you for submitting it and we will address it. And thank you, Dr. White, Mary, and Bob for your great information this afternoon. It was very informative. We appreciate it. And just a reminder to the attendees, if you have any questions or would like more information, our contact information is on screen. And you will also receive a follow-up email from FacilitiesNet within about 24 hours containing a PDF copy of today's presentation And the webcast will also be recorded and viewable on facilitiesnet.com/webcast, again, in about 24 hours. And you'll also receive a follow-up email from the Openworks team, thanking you for your participation and give you the opportunity to ask more questions as well. So thank you everyone for your attendance today, and we appreciate it. We wish you a great day. Thank you.